Hi everyone. Today we're going to be doing a digital coloring demonstration using Photoshop. I believe mine is Photoshop 2015 and a Wacom into his tablet. Tablets are pressure sensitive, so when you draw or paint on the computer, they behave more like real paintbrushes or pencils or pens. So today's demonstration, we're coloring a drawing that is already finished. It's a line drawing. We're adding color to those lines. So before we start doing that, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to set up a brush for doing painting and coloring digitally in case you don't know how to do that. And if you're using a program other than Photoshop, you'll need to look up directions for how to set up brushes or download brushes. But generally speaking, you want one that's pressure sensitive. So if I start out here with the hard round brush that comes with Photoshop, you'll see it's okay. It's not great. So what I'm going to do is open the brush window and I'm going to turn on shape dynamics and make sure that size jitter is set to pen pressure. This means when I paint, the lighter I press, the smaller my line gets, so I can actually vary what size, just like a real paintbrush. Then I'm also going to turn on transfer. That lets you control how much opacity. In fact, if you look at transfer, it'll say opacity jitter should be pen pressure and flow jitter should be pen pressure. And then you want your opacity to about 80 to 90%, and your hardness probably down at like 80%. That's a good brush to start with. So you'll see now that that's much better. Now you're seeing a slight texture. I don't know if you can see that in the video, but it's because this is a round brush. See, it's a circle. So what's happening is you're seeing the shape of that circle. So to fix that, you go to brush tip shape, and you take the spacing down a little bit from the default, and it should look a bit smoother. And now we have a nice paintbrush. That's pretty good. There's a number of ways to save it. You can just say new and brush presets to save it. I usually just go to tool presets and save it in here without the colors. Okay, so returning to our line drawing, the next thing we want to do is get our lines to a separate layer so we can paint under them. There's a number of techniques for doing this, but I'm going to show you one that I learned, almost 20 years ago, back in 1998, that I've always liked because it lets you really separate your lines from the white background in case you want to color them or do other things to them. So the first thing you need to do is promote your background drawing to a layer. The best way to do it is just double click it and we'll say lines. So now we have our lines there. Then we're going to go window and open the channels menu. In the channels menu, we're going to click the load channel as selection option, and then we're going to hit the delete key. And you can easily see I'll now deselect the selection that our lines are on a separate layer. So I'll make a new layer below our lines layer and we'll put a background in here. I think in this case, maybe do kind of an off-green background. Now, I don't tend to put white backgrounds in when I'm painting because the white of your screen is an illuminated white, and even if you're going to have the background of your finished painting when it's a print or on paper be white, the screen white is so much brighter that it can throw off your sense of color. So it's better to have a kind of neutral color for your background. Now, the other problem we have is when you delete the channels on the lines layer, sometimes it just mixes a little too transparent and light, and you can fix this by selecting the lines layer, hitting the lock option on it, and then picking black, and we'll come in with our brush we created, and we're just going to go over it. Probably make the brush bigger. There we go. See, it kind of darkens things up. Now it's up to you if you want your drawing to have nice bold black lines on the finished colored version, or if it should have colored lines. That's really easy to do. One of the things you can do is just pick the color you want, like dark green. And because you have those on a separate layer like that, you can just paint over it and it will change them to green. Now, if you want different areas, different colors, that's a great deal to do. Or you can very easily, if you want the whole thing one color, go to Image Adjustments, Hue Saturation, pick the Colorize checkbox, put the lightness up a little bit. And then pick what color. Oh, it's because I made that part a different color. Let's put it back to black first. Okay, now let's try that. Image adjustments, hue saturation, colorize. Make it a little bit lighter, and then we can play with this, sneaking around in there. Put saturation up so we get these nice, I want to go too dark, nice green lines. Now I have a layer that's the background, a layer that's the lines, and I'm going to create a new layer between that. Then I'm going to use the Magic Wand selection tool on my lines layer and click the background. Because this is a really solid line drawing, it very easily has selected just the background around the turtle dragon. And then I'm going to go select inverse. And now it has just the turtle dragon selected. And then I'm going to go select modify, contract. And depending on the size of your picture, use different values here. But I'm going to shrink this by 8 pixels so it's kind of got the center of the line selected because I just want to be inside that. Then on that new layer I made, I'll just pick a base color, kind of a brown-green color, and I'm going to fill that. And then I'm going to deselect it and I'm going to lock that layer. What this does is now I have one layer here, layer 1, that's the background, layer 2, that's my color for the creature, and layer 3, that's the lines. So the reason that we use a separate layer for our colors and lock them is so that when we're coloring, we can't go outside that layer. Now we'll zoom in on the face, and I'll show you a little more detail on how I'm coloring that, and then we'll speed up the painting for the rest. Okay, so we're starting with a sort of sandy brown color. And I'm just going to paint this in over my base at the tips of the horns, around the eyes. I'm still going to leave some of my base color there. Now we're going to need some white for the eye. I don't want to go too white, but we'll do those parts in white, just so we can start to see the face come through. Now I'm going to pick kind of a darker purple color. That's going to be my shadow color. I usually paint a little on and then pick it back up with the Get a Color tool, and doing that kind of lets me blend it in a bit. And I will create shadows under the eye, a few other places like that. I think to make it stand out, we're going to give our turtle a blue eye. So we'll pick a nice bright blue, put that in as a base, go a little smaller here. There we go. Go a little greener, a little darker. Kind of build our colors up here. Okay. Now I'm going to pick sort of a light, sort of teal blue color. This is going to be my highlight color. I'm going to start to pop out all the little details on the face. Get some of that same color in the eye so we can kind of make sure everything looks united. And of course our teeth, those will be lighter. And this is a good basic start for adding color to the turtle. Now, the next thing I'll do is sort of repeat this kind of process over the entire body of the turtle. So the general idea is to work large areas first and then add your small details on top. If I zoom out, you can kind of get an idea of how that face looks. So now I'm going to repeat that to add color to the rest of the body. We'll probably do the scales a little bit of or the back plate's a little bit of a different color. So we're going to speed up the video for that part. Okay, so now we'll slow back down. You can see I have the coloring pretty much done for our dragon turtle. At this point, if I want to go back to a white background, I'll do so. So in our background layer, I'm going to paint roll that back to being white. And then if I want a shadow under the turtle dragon, I usually go not just gray for a shadow. Let's get a little purple in there. And we'll go ahead and paint in a shadow. It's often a good idea to do this because it keeps your creature from looking like it's kind of floating on the paper. You decide if you actually want to add ground or anything else, but I'm just going to do a pretty basic shadow. I'll blend it back in with a little bit of white here. we go. At this point, I could call the picture finished, but I like to add a little more contrast by adding a layer above everything, including my lines. And you can either set it to overlay or color dodge or something else, depending on what you like. I like it on color dodge. And then I pick like a nice dark brown. And you'll see I can add some really cool glowing highlights to my dragon turtle, and we'll give him a little more life this way. Now you can do different colors, so if I change this over to like a dark blue, you'll see it'll look a little different. It's still painting over things. If you go lighter, it will get brighter, but you have to decide how much you want in the way of highlights. You can always erase the layer or adjust the layer to be a little less visible if it's too bright. So once all this is done, I'm going to take the opacity in that layer down just a little bit so it's not too bright. I'm also going to add another layer, just a normal one above that. And using white, I'll add in some details on top of the ink. So anything you really want to have pop out, highlights, maybe even overlap the ink a little. You can do them on this layer. I'm just using white to really pop some of these details out in a few places. This is where you could add edges to kind of the back scales here. Pretty much anything where you might want to be erasing everything underneath it with white. Just to pop us a little more in a few spots. I think it just sort of gives everything a more finished look by doing these extra few steps at the end. And that's pretty much my coloring process.